we're actually interested to go back to the start of the year. Yep. We're talking about Ricky Nixon before, and that was kind of your tutelage, and we're interested to kind of hear your starts in this whole industry that's now, like we said, we've touched on the doco. It's evolved. It's you guys are the rock stars now, but we're interested to go back before when it was a bit more off Broadway.
Well, to go back, I was an accountant. I always say I'm an accountant by trade, which has held me in great stead. And I was great friends with Scott McGuinness and Andrew Gowers, who's now the president of Hawthorn. Andy and I played in under 12s and under 19 premierships together. And Scott McGuinness and I were just great friends as well. And they got me down, which is weird now, to raise money for their footy trip, for Hawthorn's footy trip. So we had a huge party on Glenferrie Oval called the Mad Hatters Party. It was unbelievable, and that was the day of John Platt was about, and some big Dunstall, Dermy, Dunstall, and then these young bucks coming through: Crawford, Mark Graham, Walt Disney, Raiden Tallis. Some really good characters coming through, and they were great. And we had an amazing party. I actually went on their footy trip to the Gold Coast. It was for 4 days, and I went for 2. Did all right too, and
did all right.
Yeah, did all right. No, just meaning keeping up with them, and they'd wrestle and they'd have it was good fun, but it just couldn't happen now. It's just absurd to think that they A, were raising money for a footy trip, and B, that they had someone there helping them raise money. So, but I became friends with Jason Dunstall, who recommended me to Ricky Nixon. And I started working for Ricky in 1996. He had a big part. He was actually organising a party with Craig Kelly down at the Docklands. To suffice to say, it was a dud. Not my fault, but we were mortified afterwards. It was a loss, and it was down the Docklands, worst venue after the pre-season, grand final of when they had them. And anyway, I worked for Ricky for 3 years, and September 6, 1999 was a Friday, and I was just saying off air that, I got marched out of the office. Well, I resigned and then marched out. And, it was a bit of Jerry Maguire-like stuff then with the goldfish and a few tears from the staff, and then it was on.
Yeah. Well, from what we've heard, that period of time, though, probably give Ricky plenty of credit. I know you do, based on how he's changed the marketability of players' rights.
I've said that a lot. Yeah. Like back in the day, Ricky was top of the game. We had Club 10. We met at a building just around the corner on Kings Way, and you had Jason Dunstall there, Tony Lockett, Modra, Djakovic flew in, Wayne Carey, Gary Ablett.
There's a classic photo.
I was there that day. So that photo is iconic in my mind.
So for those listening, it's Lockett, Dunstall, Ablett, Carey.
I reckon I picked up Gaz from KFC on the Gaz drive in over the West Gate, park at KFC. I'd pick him up and drive him into town.
So what was this deal for
that
as
was
an example?
Foxtel.
Okay.
So we had Ricky did a deal with Foxtel. It was a really good deal, and became really close to Foxtel. We did footy clinics with all the big names. It was unbelievable. He did a lot of, big things like they were.
And was like commercialisation of players, was that a thing back then? Like,
it was just starting. Okay. And Ricky's idea to do Club 10, and then the AFL came out and said stuff that we're going to do Pro Squad.
Yep.
So it was a whole, the AFL took Ricky on. Then they went, we'll beat you at your own game. We'll have Pro Squad. Jeff Brown was like the head lawyer for the AFL at the time. And Craig Kelly's business built on the back of, opposition to this.
Yeah. So just to clarify for the listeners, so Club 10,
it was the group marketing rights of the 10 best players, like in Ricky's mind, the 10 best players.
How did he get those 10 to kind of...
Well, he got agents. So, Tony Lockett had this guy, Rob Hession, as his manager. Glenn Djakovic had his own manager. Like a lot of them had their own individual agent. And then Ricky managed probably half of them for everything.
Okay.
Yeah, and there was a huge meeting at... those 4 were all managed by Ricky.
Yep.
But, Lockett, sort of a bit of both. But, it was big. Yeah. Big. Huge, actually.
So you go
Crown
out on your...
Casino. We launched Club 10 at Crown Casino.
Massive.
Yeah.
you get marched out of the office, as you said, but you go on your own venture, starting a business which is in a very competitive industry.
I wasn't as much
Wasn't it?
then. I
Okay.
had no idea what I was doing. I think I've said my business. My marketing plan was 10 names on a napkin and 4 came with me.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, I wasn't that strategic.
What are the conversations like though? If you're going out on your own, you've been looking after 10 guys for Ricky.
Yeah.
You now are going on your own. You've
Yeah.
got your personal relationships with these 10 blokes.
Yeah.
Like, is Ricky buzzing you going, mate, get your hands off, Matty Scarlett, who I know you kept.
Well, Matty Scarlett, he did. He'd go meet Matty Scarlett. Matty Scarlett's the most loyal bloke in the world. He's an instrument. He just didn't click with Ricky. I thought he might stay and another one of his mates might, come with us. But that was like Trent Crode. He came with me and so did Adam Goods and Chris Tarrant couldn't at the start because he was one who did have a contract. But yeah, I was lucky that, 20 or so ended up coming with me.
But then they're all, they're all contracted.
Yep.
So you're not earning any commission based on those contracts that are
No, like it was a very tough start. My former wife at the time, but I left September 6, 1999. Charlie, who's now 26, was born October that year. We sold our house. We didn't make any money. And I remember, again, a meeting around the corner with a guy called Andrew Neofitu, who's been a great mentor over the time, but he was at Ricky's as their, he was like their chief operating officer, lawyer, and he came and said, Paul, can you pay some money? And I had sold the house. I'd paid money to their lawyer's trust account that somehow they just didn't know. But yeah, it was a pretty lean few years, that's for sure. I had a house in Seddon. Wish I still kept that. It'd be worth a bomb. But, all things just happen for a reason.
So at that time, could you see the path that was going to, maybe not to the extent it is today,
No.
but were all players under management? When
Nah,
when did you start actually going and seeing a kid in the draft or about to be or 16, 17 and start having conversations with them? When does that start?
They were like, it wasn't what it is today.
Yeah.
Do you mean? Because another thing that I'm not sure when John Turnbull started with me, but the draft that helped set the business up was which we dubbed the super draft. So I was lucky enough to sign Luke Hodge at pick 1, Luke Ball at 2, Judd at 3, Polak at 4, Bartel at 8. I think Bartel was. So that sort of set the business up. Then a bit later, John Turnbull, I set that photo up, and it was just down in Port Melbourne.
Really?
Yeah, it's around the corner.
I love that first photo, Sammy. The running. Yeah, it's one of the classics.
Yeah. So I remember the day like it was yesterday,
Yeah.
and now they're married with kids and crazy. Yeah.
Do you remember? So do you remember going and having a chat to all those guys? As an example, how early?
Luke Hodge is a great example. I would
Yeah.
have driven down the freeway to Colac 6 times. Luke Ball's dad came with me one night, so I had Luke early. He was a Xavier boy. Luke was an unbelievable cricketer, so I watched him play cricket a lot. What made him? He's 6 to bring up a ton against Skevs at St Kevin, so I can even remember that. Chris Judd, and so Luke Hodge, Leanne and Bryson, the parents. It's quite funny how we forecast now, and Luke's brother, who would have been, I don't know how old Dylan would have been there, but he's now one of the leading agents going around.
Crazy.
Whereas Chris Judd, Steve Green was a great friend of Chris's, and they've got Jagged together. It's always important to acknowledge Steve Green's role in the business and how important he was to get Chris Judd. Chris Judd was just, and I still say, probably the best person I've ever managed.
Do you remember how do you pitch
Juddy
to a young...
Juddy had Flying Start at the time. Todd Vining and others writing to him. Juddy was just a star, really well organised. His mum and dad were rippers.
He was smart, wasn't he, too?
He's highly intelligent.
Yeah.
He is now,
Still is.
was then, was always capable. So his mum, Louie, as we call her, she never mollycoddled him like I think compared to me, and us, we just mollycoddled our sons and kids so much. Whereas he knew how to cook. He was cooking pasta, and he was cooking these olives in there, and this is at 18. I'm
Olives?
Like, yeah, I'm like, you're very capable. He'd be very good. He could go into Freddy's in Chapel Street and
We'll get to that.
He's knocking them all out.
He could make a pasta, Chris Judd. Chris Judd would have olives in it. He'd be beautiful.